The following is a re-recorded episode. I tried to do a season-by-season breakdown of Road to Avonlea, a season and episode, but I got through season 1 and quickly realized I didn't have enough to say without spoiling the rest of the series. The result just wasn't what I hoped for, and I've always been disappointed with this episode. So now, a couple years later, I'm starting over, completely replacing the episode with this. A full series retrospective, in the style of my newer episodes. If you're curious about the original episode, I've uploaded it to my Patreon as a little bonus. Hello, welcome back to Casablanca. In this episode, I'm covering Road to Avonlea, which is a period show which aired from the 7th of January 1990 to the 31st of March 1996. It was 7 seasons long. It was created by Kevin Sullivan and stars Sarah Polley, Jackie Burroughs, and Cedric Smith. The series was inspired by and based on books by Lucy Maud Montgomery. There are some shows that make you feel like you grew up with them, even if you didn't. For me, Road to Avonlea is one of those shows. I didn't discover it until 2010, when I was 22. But even on that first watch, it felt nostalgic. Like I had always been there waiting for me. I can't quite explain it, but Avonlea has this emotionally nostalgic quality that makes it feel timeless. And I know I'm not alone in that. There's an active fan base online. There's an official Instagram and Facebook account that gets updated regularly, even though the show ended in 1996. There is even an active subreddit. There's something about the warmth of the setting, the depth of the characters, and the way the stories are told. It taps into something real. It's one of the few series I bought on DVD. That's how much I love it. So, today we're revisiting the entire Road to Avonlea series, from the Disney-aired early seasons all the way to the final chapter. We're going to talk characters, themes, favorite moments, and, yes, how it fits into the Anne of Green Gables universe. Because while Anne doesn't show up, this world is hers all the same. Road to Avonlea premiered in 1990 and ran for 7 seasons, ending in 1996 with a follow-up movie in 1998. It was produced by Sullivan Entertainment, the same studio behind the Anne of Green Gables miniseries in 1985. And while Anne herself isn't the focus here, the world is unmistakably hers. Based loosely on L.M. Montgomery's Chronicles of Avonlea and the Story Girl, the show brings us back to Prince Edward Island in the early 1900s. In the U.S., it aired on The Wonderful World of Disney, which introduced a whole generation of American viewers to the quiet charms of Avonlea. The premise: young Sarah Stanley, a wealthy girl from Montreal, is sent to live with her late mother's relatives in Avonlea after her father gets caught up in a scandal. Sarah is imaginative, stubborn, and dramatic, so naturally she clashes with her Aunt Hetty, who is a schoolteacher and local force of nature. But over time, Sarah finds family, friends, and belonging, and the show, like Sarah, matures with each passing season. Let's talk about the heart of the show, the characters, because Avonlea doesn't work without them. Sarah Stanley, the story girl. She starts as an outsider but quickly becomes a beloved member of the community. And even though she gradually fades into the background later in the series and quietly leaves eventually, her perspective is what draws us in. Hetty King is, simply put, iconic. She's fierce, judgmental, proud, and also deeply loyal. Heartbroken and capable of great kindness, she holds Avonlea together through sheer force of will. Felicity King starts out as your classic bratty older cousin, but becomes one of the most complex characters on the show. Her growth from self-absorbed teen to responsible young adult is one of the most satisfying arcs in the entire series. And then there's Gus Pike. He's my favorite character. Every time he shows up, you know it's going to be something special. Whether he's rescuing someone, playing the fiddle, or trying to win Felicity's heart, his stories always feel like a mini adventure. He brings romance, danger, and music wherever he goes. I even have the actor Michael Mahonen as a Facebook friend. Not so much I love the character. Olivia and Jasper might just be one of the most wholesome couples in TV history. Olivia is kind and gentle, and Jasper is awkward and brilliant. And together, they're magic. Their love story is romantic, quirky, and heartfelt in all the right ways. And of course, there's the rest of the King family. Alec, Janet, Cecily, Felix, and all the side characters that make Avonlea feel like a living, breathing town. Every character, no matter how minor, feels like they belong. One of the best things about Avonlea is how it evolves. The early seasons are gentle and sweet. You get those classic small-town stories, pranks at school, barn dances, neighborly disputes. But as the show goes on, it starts to tackle more serious topics. Loss, illness, war, heartbreak, death. For example, seasons 1 through 3 are bright and full of wonder. Seasons 4 and 5 deepen the emotional complexity. Seasons 6 and 7 are darker, more mature. The kids grow up, the stakes are higher, people leave, people change, people die. And then there's the follow-up movie, An Avonlea Christmas, which gives us one last look at the characters we love, even if it doesn't quite feel like the same show anymore. But throughout, the series never feels stale. It changes with the audience, and I think that's part of why it still resonates. At its core, Road to Avonlea is a story about relationships and resilience, how people come together, fall apart, and find their way back to each other. One of the most prominent themes is family. Not just the family you're born into, but the one you build around you. Sarah starts off as an outsider, a child of privilege who's suddenly dropped into a world of tradition and hard work. But over time, she's embraced, not because she fits in, but because she becomes part of something bigger than herself. Grief and resilience also shape much of the emotional landscape. Characters lose parents, siblings, lovers, and each time, the show leans into those feelings without getting overly sentimental. It treats loss as something that shapes you, not defines you. And in Avonlea, healing often happens quietly, through community, shared meals, and someone simply being there. Romance is another cornerstone, whether it's Olivia and Jasper's beautifully awkward journey to each other, or Gus and Felicity's stormy love story. The show never treats love as one size fits all. Instead, it shows us how love can be patient and sometimes worth waiting for. And then there's adventure, especially embodied by Gus Pike. He brings in a touch of the unknown. His episodes pull the scope of Avonlea outward, reminding us that the world beyond the village exists, and sometimes it comes calling. There's a quiet but consistent attention to class and poverty. Characters like Gus, Peg Bowen, and even outsiders passing through highlight how deeply social standing affects opportunity, trust, and acceptance. The show never preaches, but it notices. And in noticing, it makes space for empathy. In short, the heart of Avonlea is how it balances light and dark, joy and pain, comedy and drama. It's a show that doesn't flinch from sadness, but also believes in hope. In a world where so much media would rather lean too far into cynicism or sugarcoats everything, that balance feels rare. So here's the thing. Anne Shirley never appears in Road to Avonlea, but her world is everywhere. We see familiar characters like Rachel Lynde, Marilla Cuthbert, Muriel Stacy. Green Gables is occasionally mentioned, and entire episodes take place there. Avonlea is Anne's Avonlea, even if the timeline is a little flexible. There are definitely inconsistencies between the films and the show. For example, why is the schoolhouse in the middle of the woods in the movie, but in the middle of the wide open field in the show? Why isn't the King family ever mentioned in the Anne films? And why does the show never reference the Barry family? And even within Road to Avonlea itself, there are continuity quirks, like how the Pettibone house is introduced as being far outside of town and hidden away in the woods, but later somehow ends up right across the street from the general store. These are the kind of oddities that longtime fans just roll with, but they definitely stand out in rewatches. And then there's the film series. I own the Blu-ray collection of all 4 Anne movies, and I honestly think the last one, Anne of Green Gables: A New Beginning from 2009, feels like the perfect closer for Road to Avonlea. At the end of that film, Anne introduces a visitor to Rachel Lynde and Hetty King, who are both in their 90s, still alive and still best friends. It's a tiny moment, but it brings everything full circle. We get to see that these two lived into the 1950s and remained part of each other's lives. It made me feel like Road to Avonlea had a kind of afterlife, like the story didn't end with the final episode of the Christmas movie, and honestly, I think that's amazing. Another thing that makes Avonlea such a fun rewatch is the sheer number of celebrity guest stars who pop in. Some for single episodes, some for small arcs. Over the years, we got appearances from well-known names like Ned Beatty, Faye Dunaway, Christopher Reeve, Michael York, Meg Tilly, and Eugene Levy. There's even an episode with the young Ryan Gosling. But the most iconic cameo has to be Christopher Lloyd. He plays a mysterious inventor named Alistair Dimple in Season 3. And yes, I have a personal fan theory that he's actually just Doc Brown living under a new name on Prince Edward Island. Think about it. Eccentric scientists, odd inventions, wild energy, possible time travel. I'm just saying. While these cameos never steal the spotlight from the core cast, they do add a little jolt of excitement when you spot someone familiar. And because Avonlea has such a timeless quality, it somehow doesn't feel strange to see a Hollywood face wandering around a dirt road village. Road to Avonlea is one of those rare shows that leaves a mark. It's cozy without being shallow. It's nostalgic without being naive. And it grows up with you. Whether it's Felicity struggling to find herself, or Gus playing a fiddle tune in a candlelit tavern, or Hetty standing tall in a classroom, you walk away feeling like you've lived something. It's a series I'm glad to return to again and again, and it's a story I'll never stop recommending. And cut.